Hey guys, this is Lachette, and that is Juno. If you watched my wrap up, part 1 for August 2019, you will know that this video was getting so long I had to cut it into 2 parts. So this is the beginning of part 2. I am editor Lachette. So let me just change my clothes, location, and hair, and we'll get into the second part of this wrap up. The next book I read was How to Be a Boss by Nalini Singh. And now I'm saying it like that because you see how it's spelled, B-A-W-S-E. I read this for the newts, and this fulfilled my acceptable in herbology was to listen to an audiobook. I've been wanting to listen to this for a few years. I first heard Lily, knew anything about her from a podcast, and I kind of just fell in love with her personality and her humor. I barely watched any of her YouTube videos, but whatever. I wanted to hear more, and she talked about her book then, so I'm like, this is the perfect time to actually listen to it. I'm glad I did. Lily is a YouTuber. She is one of the top 10 biggest YouTubers in the world. As of last year, she's literally, I think, number 10 and the only female on that list, and making like millions of dollars. So yeah, she's talented, she's engaging, she's funny, all of which comes through in the audio. And I guess this book kind of goes in the self-help category or inspirational, I don't care. So again, nonfiction. How to be a boss. Boss is not a joke for her. Each chapter is a new idea on how to show confidence, to reach goals, to get hurt efficiently, as she says, and to smile genuinely. That's a quote. Chapters include anecdotes. There are sections called Out of the Blue, where she talks about a time in her during her depression, and then compares it to another similar time later in life when she was doing better. There are lessons at some, and even homework at the end of some of the chapters. And she's super realistic. She uses modern pop culture references and overarching ideas that you can't avoid doing the work to get what you want or need in life. So this was something uplifting without being overbearing, and I'll definitely come back to like reread. Okay, so the next book I read was The Gloria Scott by Arthur Conan Doyle. This is a Sherlock Holmes short story. It was a quick read between books while I was waiting for the next set of books to arrive from the library. So this is a short story from the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. I have a whole ebook, which is the complete works of Sherlock, or the complete Sherlock Holmes works, or whatever it's called, by Arthur Conan Doyle. And I'm slowly making my way through it. And I decided to read this really quickly. So the memoirs of Sherlock, unlike most of the stories about Sherlock Holmes, these are past tense. These are about past cases before Dr. Watson even knew Sherlock existed, before they became friends, before Watson wound up helping Sherlock in his cases. This particular one is even more unique because it's how Sherlock got started being a consulting detective. I don't know if that term is from the original canon or if I'm just remembering from Sherlock the TV show, but you know what I'm talking about. That's pretty much the only interesting thing about this particular short story, because the case is not super thought-provoking or mysterious or anything like that. Sherlock doesn't even really do much or anything at all. He's kind of a witness to most of the case, but basically what's important is that this series of events is what sparked the idea that he should make a career out of his ability for observation and deduction. And Yeah, so it was important in his life, and he just decided to tell Watson one day because he knew Watson wanted to know. So, okay, the next book I read is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and I read this for the Newts, and that was for my Exceeds Expectation in Herbology to read a book between 350 and 390 pages long. I don't remember how many pages this was. Oh, wait. Yes, I do. It's right in front of me. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Oh, God. Don't let me down. 355 pages. So, yeah. It fits. This is a YA fantasy novel. It's the first in the Grisha trilogy and the first in the Grisha verse, basically. I read Six of Crows like 2 years ago. Last year I read Crooked Kingdom. And the thing is, I read Six of Crows as part of a book, what do they call those? Book club. God, what's wrong with me? I read Six of Crows as part of a book club read, and like people were like, I didn't know about the Grisha trilogy that came first. So I read it, I loved it. I loved Crooked Kingdom and gave me all the feels. I loved all of the Six of Crows members. So I was like, oh, when I found out about the trilogy, I was like, well, let me read it. I know not everybody loves it. I've heard it's not as good, but I wanted to try them anyway. So this is about a girl, Alina, who grows up in Ravka as an orphan with only one friend, and when they're old enough, they join the First Army as their country is constantly at war with several others. The other problem in Ravka is the Fold, which is this like rift of darkness that splits their country in half. Because it's complete darkness. You can't really see once you're in the Fold, and the Fold is also filled with dangerous monsters that eat people. So when Alina's regiment happens to go into the Fold, I say happens to, but they go into the Fold, they're attacked by the monsters, and lo and behold, Alina's Grisha powers are revealed. They've been dormant up until this point. After that, everything in her life changes, and the story unfolds from there. I was not instantly in love with this like I was with the Six of Crows characters. I think I like how that was set up a little bit better, but I don't hate this. I don't even dislike it. It's good. I'm interested in seeing where things go. I want to see what happens with Alina and Mal. Speaking of Mal, I was always Team Mal. The Darkling did nothing for me. He was creepy from beginning to end, and that's all I thought, always. And it was really good seeing the Grisha and how their powers work and the hierarchies that they have. We got a closer look at that. So yes, looking forward to, I think Siege and Storm is the next book. So after that, I read Archangel Viper by Nalini Singh. So I am very much trying to catch up on her series, on a lot of series, but particularly on Nalini Singh. So Archangel Viper is an adult paranormal romance set in Nalini Singh's Guild Hunter universe. And I've talked about the Guild Hunters before in my Letha Witchathon vlog. Basically, the Viper, one of Raphael's 7, and he's a vampire. The other character is Holly. She was a victim in the first book of the Guild Hunters series. It was great to see how Holly turned out. Trigger warnings for PTSD, flashbacks, and on-screen blood and gore. I'm talking about like body dismemberment and sculptures of dismembered bodies. for example. I like Holly and Venom's relationship, but I don't know if it's believable as a romantic relationship at the end there. I don't know. What they have in common is they're not the typical vampires, and I mean not the typical vampires as in this world. I don't know that most of the vampires in here are typical to the general mythology of vampires in paranormal reading. But anyway, they're not the same though, even though they're both odd compared to most other vampires. So they irritate the shit out of each other. And I like their kind of like antagonistic relationship. So I guess this is like hate to love, but it's not really. But then when is it ever? When do they ever actually hate each other and hate to love? Anyway, I was also a little let down by the reveal for what is going on with Holly. Like, what makes her different? Yeah, I wasn't really happy with how that turned out. But it's not the worst thing. Otherwise, I love this book. They have well fleshed out personalities and relationships, and we also get a look at a different side of the vampire archangel or vampire angel world. Not everyone turns out to be rich or beautiful or powerful. So that was interesting. It was like, oh, okay, this is what other vampires turn out to be, or some angels turn out to be. I loved the interactions among the seven. I am a sucker for found families and for close familial ties, and close friendships. I love it. I don't care what type of book or genre we're talking about. I'm here for that. So we got a lot of that in this particular book, so I'm just really happy. And I read this for... Sorry, I put that down for some reason. For my newts, I think... Oh yes, I read this for my Outstanding in Potions, a book with a prologue. This prologue was 1 paragraph long. And this is the last book I've finished this month. FYI, Archangel Viper was my last newt. So I accomplished all my newts and passed to become a potioneer. Please hire me, Hogwarts. But yeah, so Our Year of Maybe by Rachel Lynn Solomon was the group read for Mythathon Team Water, Team Apollo. This is a YA contemporary coming of age. I was thinking maybe romance, but that doesn't feel right either. And I'm not even sure what coming of age means. Anyway, you tell me. This is about Sophie and Peter, best friends forever, probably since birth, if not. They live across the street from each other and are always in each other's pockets. Peter is a pianist and used to being a sickly child with a safe life, as he was born with one non-functional kidney, and usually that's okay, but his other kidney, he has chronic kidney disease, so he's always been on the kidney transplant list and in and out of the hospital on dialysis and other things. Sophie, on the other hand, is perfectly healthy. She is his only friend. She's a dancer who's always been basically focused on Peter, even though she has a sister. Peter has no siblings, and her family and some potential friends at school, the other dancers. Anyway, this starts off basically, they are like codependent basically, and then Sophie turns 18, takes the test to find out that she is a compatible match for a kidney transplant for Peter. So they go through it. She gives him one of her kidneys and his body accepts it, and then things change in both of their lives. This has like bisexual rep, what is this? Dyslexia rep, obviously physical disorders. There is a lot of talk about Judaism in this book. Sophie and her family are all Jewish. Peter's father is Jewish. His mother is basically non-religious. I forget the word. I think that's agnostic. But yeah, and his father, though Jewish, is kind of lapsed anyway. So there's a lot of talk about that too. So this is the second book where like religion was a major discussion topic. Anyway, there's also like some medical talk, like both technical and practical. The technical is not too bad. The practical, just for those who are squeamish, can maybe be a bit much. So like there's mentions of Peter using a catheter and also doing his exchanges. Like that's explained several times, the exchanges. So if you might be squicked out by kind of bodily functions, that you might not want to read this. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if this book was too young for me. I don't want to blame it on the age, but I feel like maybe because Sophie is the age that she is, that's kind of the way she was acting might be more acceptable, and therefore that's why I don't like it. But I don't want to be like, oh, I'm an adult, I don't like YA because they don't act right or something. I don't know. They're too young for me. But Sophie was kind of too clingy. Like I said, there's some codependency and it's understandable, and the parents are there and on screen they're concerned about that, but it's kind of what can you do? I threw this book away from me at the end. Like, it had me in tears. It had me very emotional. Like, I like the characters, but not completely liking Sophie. Like, the problem is a major foundation for this plot is non-communication, which pisses me off. I liked that, what was I gonna say? I coped with it in the beginning because I thought it was gonna change. There were some things, choices that they both made for how they were gonna deal with their lives, getting more friends and things like that, that I thought was like, okay, or maybe like they'll come to certain realizations on their own and it won't be so focused on this. But Sophie, like, really, especially, she assumed a lot about how her life was going to be and how Peter was thinking and what they were going to do with after they graduated. And, like, she basically created her own fantasy world, never told Peter about it. And then things kind of exploded towards the end of the book. The most infuriating part is how the beginning of this book, it's not the main focus, but it is really important, right? Like, this is all the surgery, the kidney transplant is a big deal, right? Sophie wants to give something to Peter with no strings attached, even though she's secretly in love with him. Like, she's like, I would do it anyway. And Peter is like, he wants a kidney that matches, that his body will accept, and he gets one, but he also doesn't want to feel like his entire relationship with Sophie is built on the fact that he owes her his life. So we get it. And then, like, the details and the realities of, you know, Peter's illnesses and the surgery and the complications are explicitly stated and very realistic. But then Sophie has problems potentially that are stated several times that could be because of the fact that she gave up one of her kidneys, but it's never dealt with. Never. We get like I think he asks her at the very end, like, are you okay? And I think it's implied that he's asking about physically, like, are you okay? Because he knows that at this point she might not be. And I think she's like, yeah. And that's it. And I'm like, no. Is she okay? Why was she like that? What the fuck? So that was the last full book I finished in the month of August. So the last book I read in the month of August was for Mythathon. Apollo is a twin. Read a book with twin protagonists or a powerful sibling bond. I started J.R. Ward's The Shadows, but since I finished Our Year of Maybe on like 3 days left, I was upset. I needed a break. And so by the last day of August, I only read like 100 pages of this huge ass behemoth book. So I didn't complete it, but I'm still reading it. And you'll see in my next wrap up what's my thoughts on it. I've only got about 150 pages left. So that is all the books I read in August. Let me know what you think. Have you read any of these books? What were your thoughts on them? I'm particularly wondering if anybody on Team Water, Team Apollo, what you thought of our group read. How did you feel? If you're a teenager or maybe even early 20s, I don't know. Maybe you feel a little bit different than I do. I'm in my mid-30s exactly now, so maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just an old washed up lady who has no emotions. Like, they're gone. I don't know. But yeah. That definitely showed, I think, this month the variety of books I like to read, and I'm hoping to show you more. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. You can friend me on my social media links down below, and you can find my Etsy shop where you can get a 10% discount code as well for magical baths and oils. Bye, guys.